Hi everyone, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown on all the new features we've added to Beta 4 of the Strumpy Shader Editor. As always, once you've installed it, you can open the editor from the Shader Editor menu. Once it's popped up, you can dock it like so. Okay, so in the new version of the Shader Editor, we've added quite a lot of new features to make it a bit easier to use and a bit more fun to iterate with. The first thing you'll notice is that the preview window is now a separate window. This is so that you can, say, resize it like so, or move it onto a separate monitor. This essentially frees up a bit more workspace for actually working on shaders. Another thing you'll notice is that we've also added this mini-map. This shows you exactly where you are on the shader graph, and it's very handy when you're on a much larger graph. You'll also notice that on the right hand side of the screen we've actually got a permanently docked settings bar. Each of these inputs is specified, does different things to the graph. The first one is the node editing button. Once you've got that selected, if you click on a node, you can edit its properties. Most nodes only have the comment to be edited, but some other nodes have, like the dot node for example, has a few more advanced options. The next button along is the inputs. This specifies all the inputs to the shader, and these get exposed into the Unity material editor. The next one along is the settings. This used to be on the master node, but we've split it out into its own little options because it fits a bit better there. This contains all the name and the fallback and the queue settings and all that kind of thing. The last one is a list of nodes that exist within the editor. We've added this here so you can actually do a little search and filter. So, for example, if you can't find it in the drop down, the right click menu very easily, you can just search for it here. Down the bottom we have the other buttons. So the file menu exposes the save and the load and all that kind of thing. And then there's the comments toggle, the graphs button, which you can use to move between graphs, and the preview button, which will open the preview if it's not open currently. So what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be creating a simple ramp lighting shader. This is similar to how Team Fortress 2 does its lighting, and it adds a sort of stylized effects to the lighting in your game. So we're going to create a new graph to do that. Okay, the first thing you'll notice is that the settings panel, or the settings button, has turned red. If you select this, you'll see why. It's because the shader doesn't have a name. So what we'll do is we'll create one. So we're just going to create a simple input for the color. In the input panel, you'll notice that there's lots of different types. These map directly to the Unity specified input types, and down the bottom there's also this extra one. These map to the Unity input names that exist in the Unity input shaders. So if you use these and specify a fallback shader, you'll be able to fall back to that shader much easier and with expected results. So we're just going to use the Unity main color input and set it to a nice blue color, like so. And then we are going to add a property input, a color property input. In the previous versions of the shader editor, you used to configure the inputs on the node itself. That's not the case anymore. Inputs are now specified in the input panel, and this node simply maps to any configured inputs. So here we go, we can hook up color like so. This is so you can have multiple nodes mapping to the same input, which helps clean up a lot of graphs as well. So if we update the preview on that, we'll see that there we have a simple blue diffuse shader going off. Because ramp lighting is a lighting effect, you actually do this in the lighting graph. So we'll just open that up and we'll start writing it. So the way ramp lighting works is that it takes the sort of the luminosity at a pixel, so the brightness of a pixel, and it remaps that to a different value based on a texture lookup. So that's what we're going to do now. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to add a luminance value here, and then we are going to grab the light color, like so. So what this will do is it'll figure out the average value of the lighting at a pixel from the light buffer, and we're just going to output that straight away to start with. There we are. So because there's no, we're not including surface color in this at all, it's just going to show the grayscale lighting. Now, because we have the luminance value at a pixel, we can use this as a value into a texture lookup. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to do a text 2D and use the luminance as the UV. And then as the sampler, we're just going to add a simple sampler. A simple sampler is a sampler that doesn't specify any UV data. That means it can be used in the lighting graph. Okay, now this is red currently because it's not configured. Another way to add the input property is if you select a red node that's an input and it's not configured, you can just do it this way. So I'll just specify the name of it as ramp, and then click add. And if you look in the inputs, it's configured a new 2D texture property for us straight away with a default of black. And we'll just input that into the lighting. And if we update the preview, you'll see that it's just a color. It's very bad. That's due to the fact that we haven't specified a texture to use for lookup. So we'll do that now. So here we are. Here's our ramp gradient shade texture. And once we specify that, you can see that it's taken that luminosity and it's used it as the UV into this. That's why there's a harsh edge here, because in this part of the texture, the gradient is quite tight. So you can get any kind of gradiated effect by using a different kind of ramp. Now, because we want to still preserve our blue color, we are going to add an albedo node. This just brings the color across from the surface, and then we're going to just add a multiply node like so. And we're going to multiply our light color by our surface color and input that into lighting, and then update the preview. And there we go. You can see the gradient effect from the ramp lighting there. As always, we can now export that shader. Let's call it ramp. We'll just close it off and then go to the scene view. So here we have a sphere. It's just a normal sphere using normal lighting. We'll now create a material from that ramp shader and drag that onto there. And as you can see, because we haven't specified the texture yet, it's all just plain color. But once we specify that, there we go. You can see the ramp lighting taking effect. Okay, if you have any questions about the new version, please ask them in the thread. We'll answer them as best as we can, and we hope you enjoy it. Thanks.